Be Wealthy and Smart, episode 1127.
Step into a world of wealth and financial freedom without budgets,
Welcome to Be Wealthy and
bosses
Smart. I'm Linda P. Jones, America's Wealth Mentor, empowering women and men worldwide to financial freedom.
Linda P. Jones.
On today's show, we're going to talk about why millennials won't inherit as much money as they expected. Now, this is not a really elegant topic. It may not be the nicest thing we've ever talked about, but it is necessary to talk about it because it's happening, it's real, it's on some people's minds, whether that's the baby boomer parents or whether that's the millennial children. There's planning being done or possible planning to be done that isn't being done. There's all kinds of angles that we can look at from this perspective. But when I saw this article, I thought this was an important body of information to bring to you and put this out there for you to think about, for you to possibly discuss with your children, and maybe for children to have expectations tempered somewhat. This article comes to us from CNBC, and the title says, "Boomers have more wealth than any other generation, but millennials may not inherit as much as they hope." It was written by Jessica Dickler, and I'm going to read this because just as it's written is so important, and I'll add some comments. It says, "On the cusp of the greatest generational wealth transfer in history, baby boomers are set to pass more than $68 trillion onto their children. It's a generation that has accumulated a greater percentage of wealth than any other generation ever has," said Mark Merzberger, a certified public accountant and CEO of Dana Investment Advisors, referring to baby boomers. But they may not be handing down as much as their children think. Studies show a growing disconnect between how much millennials expect to inherit in the great wealth transfer and how much aging boomers plan on leaving them. More than half, or 52% of millennials who are expecting to receive an inheritance from their parents or another family member said they expect to receive at least $350,000, according to a recent survey of more than 2,000 adults by Alliant Credit Union. But 55% of baby boomers who plan to leave behind an inheritance said they will pass on less than $250,000. Part of the discrepancy is wanting to make sure people have enough money to live on before they start gifting, taking into account their own life expectancy, long-term care, and other considerations, said Susan Hirschman, Director of Wealth Management at Schwab Wealth Advisory in Phoenix. "There are a lot of what-ifs," she added. Tack on inflation, geopolitical uncertainty, and fears of a recession, and boomers suddenly may be feeling less secure about their financial standing and less generous when it comes to giving money away. Less than 1/4, or 23% of adults, said they felt very comfortable about their finances right now, according to a separate report by Edelman Financial Engines. Fewer, just 12%, consider themselves wealthy. Another growing issue is financial independence, the Edelman report found. 85% of parents said they value autonomy, but 4 in 10 are still supporting their adult children financially. "As parents, we are struggling with how to support our kids," said Jason Vandeloo, head of wealth planning and marketing at Edelman Financial Engines. At the same time, views of inherited wealth are changing, Hirschman noted. Parents may feel less inclined to pass on large sums of money, she said. The mentality is, I earned this, and so should you. And even though most parents plan to leave at least something to their children, only 37% said they currently have a plan in place for transferring their wealth, the Edelman report found. It's a source of conflict for many families, according to Vandeloo. It's not just fighting about how the money is split, he said. Fights over who is put in charge are just as common. You have to have an open and honest dialogue, Vandeloo advised. So now we get into the section on how to have the dreaded money talk. Many families dread talking about money, especially financial plans, a recent Wells Fargo report found. Roughly 26% of adult children would rather deal with their parents' estate after they die than talk about it while they're living. Further, 19% said they don't mind receiving nothing at all as long as they don't have to talk with their parents. It's how you frame the conversation, Hirschman said. It's not about death, but really about putting your family in the best possible emotional, financial, and structural position they can be in. Without communicating a clear plan and the reasoning behind it, you are taking something that's sad and making it tragic, she said. End of article. So I think this article makes a lot of good points. The parents aren't really sure how long they're going to live and how much they're going to need at the end of life. So many of our biggest expenses come in the last 1 to 2 years of our life, specifically the last few months of our life, when people can need intensive care or round-the-clock nursing and incur other high expenses. That can drain the size of an estate quickly. And if that continues for any length of time, well, all the resources in the estate can be used up, resulting in no inheritance available for the children, even though there was once a very nice-sized estate. It's really difficult to plan for, and having parents that have crossed over and a husband who died suddenly, I've dealt with end-of-life scenarios more than I would like. It can be very hard to let go of someone you love, even though you know their days are numbered and there's really not much you can do to change that, no matter how much you spend. But the reality is, these are things that you can't always plan for. Sometimes health can go downhill fast, such as in a heart attack or a stroke, and you don't really have any advance notice. Other times, it's a longer type duration illness, such as cancer, and it can go on for years. The point is, even though the article talks about having important conversations and doing important planning, that's not really always possible. I think what people need to do is temper their expectations a little bit. The millennials probably need to understand there's a good possibility that they may inherit less than they think. And for the baby boomers, they have to have a balance between how much they might want to gift today and how much they need to save for their future and possible end-of-life expenses someday. It may sound strange, but some of the biggest arguments in families come not over the amount of money, but over the possessions. So the clearer you can be about who gets what possession or who wants what possession, that can save relationships in families if you take care of that ahead of time. Being very clear about what goes where rather than just leaving it all up in a jumble and letting people fight over it, it's probably a better idea to get that detail down ahead of time if you can. These are tough conversations to have. Never fun and never easy. But if there's something really important to you, like your grandma's china or a piece of pottery that they made, no matter what it is or what its value, if it has sentimental value to you, that's something that you do want to talk about. I'll never forget the story about a large estate that was split between two children, but they were stuck over a plastic bird that was something that their mother loved. It was this object that was basically worth nothing that destroyed the children's relationship and caused competition between them. The lawyer offered to come up with a duplicate of the real bird and not let them know who had which one in an effort to try and solve the issue. But the children just couldn't deal with that. They wanted the one that their mother had, and one of them got it and the other one didn't. And that was the end of that relationship, which seems so crazy to us, but I've seen that over and over in different families. It can get down to an absurd level of what people are attached to. And that's why sometimes the conversations can be around simple things like that and who is going to get what so that you can avoid some of those problems. That's the kind of thing where the problems arise, strangely enough. It's not really over the dollar amount. I mean, whatever the estate is going to be worth, it's worth. There's really not any flexibility to that degree. So whatever's left, whatever cash is being passed on, is what's being passed on. But it's the items that have emotional value, that are emotionally charged, charged that can really cause the problems. And that's where, if you can, you really want to focus your pre-planning and have the conversations around. I will include a link to this article in the show notes so you can take a look at it. That's all for today. Until next time, live the good life and be wealthy and smart.
Thank you for listening to Be Wealthy and Smart with Linda P. Jones. Share the wealth and tell your family and friends about the show. Check out our website, blog, and social media for more riches at www.bewealthyandsmart.com.